Okay, so we're in episode 15, which is called The First Crusade Against the Rome. Okay, so I'm guessing Rome is gonna be in trouble now. The Romans can't catch a break. if it's gonna go how I think it's gonna go, then the Romans can't catch a break. Let's see what's gonna happen.
The campaign, started by what is now known as the First Crusade, is widely considered the most successful crusade in history, so it is only fitting that it was followed up by its greatest failure. In reality, both of them and the upcoming events are part of the same convoluted chapter, which we will attempt to shed some light on. Raymond of Toulouse was chosen by Alexios to act as a guide to one of the large groups, and ultimately managed to save his life and sail to Constantinople. From there he sailed to Antioch, seeking to rejoin the struggle for power, but was imprisoned by Tancred. Bohemond's nephew only agreed to let the old man go after he swore that he wouldn't attempt to conquer any land in the Levant. Raymond then proceeded to conquer a piece of the Levant for himself.
Okay, wait, let me get that one more time, that was hilarious.
Levant, the old man, but was imprisoned by Tancred. Bohemond's nephew,
typical Raymond L,
only agreed to let the old man go after he swore that he wouldn't attempt to conquer any land in the Levant. Raymond then proceeded to conquer a piece of the Levant for himself.
Oh my gosh. Dude, Raymond's kind of unintentionally hilarious. And, this poor guy, he can't catch a break. I kind of feel bad for him because all his, like, endeavors, kind of failed. So, like, now it's just, like, he's just trying hard. He's, like, old. He's, like, trying to make something, so I don't know. But that's hilarious. None of these guys, like, their own interpersonal rivalry is, like, just the funniest thing ever.
But only this time he did do it on Alexios' behalf. Yes, this is not a typo. Raymond, who was the only major leader who refused to bend the knee to Alexios in 1095, was now laying siege to Tripoli, aided by 10 Byzantine ships which blockaded the city. The defences of Tripoli were formidable, so he proceeded to build a castle overlooking it, called Mons Peregrinos, or Pilgrim's Mountain, with the help of Byzantine engineers. His minuscule army of 300 knights managed to capture Tortosa and Gibelet, but the defenders of Tripoli refused to surrender.
Dude, yeah, Raymond, didn't he show up with the largest contingent of army, of the Crusader army of the first one? Now he's like 300 guys, like, man, how the mighty have fallen. But so far, it's interesting, yeah, like, he's the kind of, like, working hand in hand with the Byzantines now. And, I'm telling you, Raymond has had the most interesting character arc of all the original Crusaders. Like, his ups and downs have just been the most riveting to learn about.
In the meantime, the survivors of the Crusade of 1101 had made their way into the Holy Land and were regrouping in Jaffa in the presence of King Baldwin in 1102. That was when scouts gave him reports of a small Fatimid army moving to their position. Baldwin feared and respected the armies of the Seljuks and Aleppo, but after the victories in Ascalon and Ramla, he was well aware that the more stationary Fatimids, who used a mixed force of Arab and Berber cavalry, supported by Sudanese bowmen, were easy to break using the traditional Frankish tactics. And so the King of Jerusalem rode out to meet his foes, accompanied by no more than 200 knights. To their dismay, they wouldn't meet a small force.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, notice the numbers, right? They showed up with, like, thousands, and now they're all fighting with, like, hundreds. Like, that's the thing about these, like, with all the attrition and wearing out that the Crusaders endured, like, I'm surprised the manpower, like, they're still far away from Europe, so, like, they're gonna need to, like, supply manpower either across the sea, or, like, I guess, like, start using locals or something, because I don't know how they're gonna, like, get the manpower to sustain their place in, you know, in the East. I mean, we do know that the Crusader states last quite a while, so they must have had either shipped more people from Europe or come to rely on the locals or something.
But a 20,000 strong host.
Oh my gosh. Holy crap. Baldwin, you're gonna have to do like another night attack or something, because a straight up pitched battle seems insane right now with those odds.
Led by Vizier al-Afdal's son, Sharaf al-Ma'ali. The Crusader army fled to the nearby city of Ramla and barricaded themselves in its single tower. The situation was hopeless, and in the cover of night, Baldwin, his scribe, and a single knight escaped, leaving the rest to their fate. In the absence of their king, the remaining Crusaders said a prayer and charged out against the besiegers. There were no survivors. Many knights and notable nobles were among the casualties, including powerful nobles like Hugh of Lusignan, Stefan of Burgundy, and most importantly, Stefan of Blois, the man who abandoned the Crusaders in the siege of Antioch. The Fatimids then went to Jaffa, a crucial stronghold where the Queen of Jerusalem resided, and laid siege to it. There they employed a very deceptive tactic, as they grabbed the corpse of one of the fallen knights, mutilated its body, and paraded it in front of the walls of Jaffa. Sharaf wanted to weaken the garrison's morale, pretending to have killed Baldwin, and the trick worked. But just as the defenders were getting ready to surrender, the king returned. Baldwin, who had made his way to Arsuf and boarded an English pirate ship, now ran through the Fatimid blockade, while Uv Fuqon Beg and 80 knights broke the lines near the coast. Once inside, Baldwin assembled a force of 8,000 and charged at the Fatimids, scattering their siege lines and forcing them into a full retreat.
Oh wow.
In 1103,
Okay. Yeah, Baldwin of all the Crusaders is the closest to the Fatimids, so it seems like he has to be the new buffer between the Fatimids and the rest of the Syrian upper Crusader states. But again, Baldwin, man, very impressive. Like, I know we've kind of talked about his, like, deception, his more underhandedness, how he got the county of Edessa, some of his more, like, jerkish behavior, but you can't deny the man is brave, and he will fight if he needs to. So, again, like, he's had probably another interesting character arc.
close call was followed up with more successes for the Crusaders, as Tancred sacked the city of al-Muslimiyah, taking many Muslim captives and ransoming them back to Aleppo. He had also managed to secure the Byzantine cities of Tarsus, Edana, and Mamistre, and in that very year, Bohemond's ransom was paid, and he was released from Danishmendid captivity. Bohemond then proceeded to attack Kafar-Latha, but was repelled by a resilient Banu tribe. Despite this minor setback, trade with Genoa, Pisa, and Venice was flourishing, and each of—
That's cool that Bohemond returned. Like, I was wondering, is he just gonna be in prison for the rest of his life? But I kind of like we're seeing the formation of the Crusader states. The county of Edessa is kind of solidified. Antioch under Bohemond's there. Jerusalem under Baldwin is, for the most part, solidified. And now we have Raymond here sort of making his own area with the Byzantines. I'm not sure if he's going to turn on the Byzantines, though. I know he says he's working with Alexios, but with his different flag and stuff, I'm not sure if he's going to give it back. But either way, it's kind of cool to see the origins of the Crusader states as we know them,
of them soon had their own quarter in every major Crusader city. However, things started to change for the worse for the Crusaders in 1104. It all started with Baldwin of Bourges, ruler of Edessa, who laid siege to the city of Haran. The influential Crusader needed aid and requested assistance from both Antioch and Jerusalem. For a moment, the Crusaders reunited with a common goal, as Bohemond, Tancred, Joscelin of Courtenay, the Archbishop of Pisa Dagobert, and Archbishop of Edessa Benedict were all on the same side. Together, they mustered a force of around 1,000 knights, supported by 9,000 infantry and archers. This unity would not last, as the Seljuk rulers of Mosul, Jekemish, and of Mardin, Sokman, launched an attack on Edessa with 7,000 horse archers, hoping that it would force the Crusaders to lift their siege. Indeed, both armies lifted their siege in order to meet at the Battle of Harran in 1104. The Crusaders were so rushed that Baldwin and Beaumont didn't even wear their armour. What happened next was a 2 or 3 day long feigned retreat, the classic move that armies throughout history never stop falling for.
Yeah, beyond effective, and the fact that the Turks have used this as such great advantage and keep winning is insane. I'll say though, Bohemond's like pretty experienced. Like I said, I think of the original Crusader leaders, he was probably the best general. So like, you think he would be more, I don't know, aware, considering he also used a feint retreat, I believe. He also used the Turks' tactics, so seems like he's kind of losing his edge as time is passing by between his capture and this, the sounds of this. It sounds like, I don't know, he's losing his edge, I guess you can say.
The Crusaders from Edessa were positioned on the left, while those from Antioch took the right in a loose formation that kept changing as the days passed. The chase began near the city of Recca and continued until Harran, a distance of just over 100 kilometers. The Crusaders were decisively crushed, with Joscelin and Baldwin of Bourges captured, while Beaumont and his nephew barely escaped. This was another decisive defeat, which stopped the seemingly unstoppable momentum of the First Crusade. This defeat cost Beaumont so many men that almost instantly the cities Tancred fought so hard to take from the Byzantines rebelled and flipped to Alexios. Cilicia was lost, but even worse, the harbour of Laodicea was taken by a Byzantine admiral. Beaumont barely held out in the city's citadel, knowing that his days were numbered.
Man, the twists and turns. Like, again, Bohemond, who was probably one of, at least early on, one of the more successful crusaders, after he took Antioch, he basically chilled in his own little state here for the rest of the First Crusade after Antioch, and seemed to be one of the more successful ones alongside Baldwin. But now fortune seems to have turned on him. Between his capture and the losses, not only do I think he kind of looks like he lost his edge as a commander, but like his luck has like turned on him against him, you know? So yeah, that's a little that's a shame there, I guess.
He was well aware that unless he gained reinforcements, his cause was hopeless, especially with his lifeline to the west now being cut. Only a few weeks after the battle, Baldwin of Jerusalem managed to take Acre with the help of the Genoese and Pisan navy, putting even more pressure on the Prince of Antioch to act.
Turn on pin ver-
As we covered earlier, in 1081, Robert the Fox Guiscard and his son Beaumont launched the first Norman invasion of the Balkans, giving Alexios his first test merely months after he took the throne. Together they took Larissa and won several major victories. Alexios proved to be more cunning and outmaneuvered Robert, forcing him to leave a young Beaumont in charge, who the emperor then beat. In the following years, the Byzantines hired Normans to fight Seljuks, and Seljuks to fight Normans, before Alexios weaponized Christian fever to create an amalgamation which was already spiraling out of control. And now in 1104, exactly 100 years before the sack of Constantinople during the Fourth Crusade, Beaumont of Taranto, Prince of Antioch, decided to set sail for the destruction of the Eastern Roman Empire. But for him to get there, he needed an army, and between him and his army, Beaumont had to make several stops in Byzantine ports. Luckily, he was very resourceful. The prince ordered his men to dress up as if they were in mourning and lay him in a coffin with secret air vents in the middle of the deck. A rooster was killed and placed inside, so that the stench of death was all around it. Whenever they set anchor in a trade port, they would loudly announce the death of Beaumont, the scourge of the empire. This ruse went on for a while, but then, just as they were about to set out from Corfu, Beaumont revealed the truth and sent Alexios a letter, which Anna Komnene describes in great detail.
Okay. You have to give it to Bohemond. Like, it's kind of interesting now that he's under siege from the from, you know, the Romans, just his history. Yeah, we do know that him and Alexios traded blows, so it's kind of funny that he, you know, was a part of the First Crusade. And, again, the thing about Alexios and Bohemond, I think, is that they have kind of the cunning. Like, they're both incredibly intelligent and cunning, and they have that in common. And they're both kind of proven commanders. So, like, I feel like of all the Crusaders of the First Crusade, Alexios and Bohemond kind of are, like, the most similar, or, like, two sides of the same coin, which makes their, like, relationship, I guess, the most interesting of the dynamics, right? From enemies to sort of allies to now back to enemies, like, I don't know. And again, Bohemond is cunning. There's nothing I can take away from the man. The man is intelligent, and that whole ruse and stuff, like, again, a very cunning man.
Over time, your empire has learned what sort of man I am, my courage and firm resolve as an adversary. When I turn my luck around, God knows I will not leave unavenged those woes I have suffered. Ever since I marched across Roman lands and took Antioch and enslaved all Syria with my spear, I've suffered much pain because of you and your army. Hope after hope has been dashed, and I've been tossed into thousands of calamities and barbarian wars. But now here I am. Know that though I was dead, I have arisen, returned afresh, slipped through your hands. Disguised as a dead man, I evaded every eye, every hand and intelligence. And now, living, moving and breathing the air, from Corfu I send your majesty extremely disagreeable news, which you will not receive with pleasure, that I have handed over the city of Antioch to my nephew Tancred, bequeathing him as a suitable match for your generals. As for me, I am going to my own country. To you and your friends, I am considered a corpse, but to myself and my friends, I am living and planning clever schemes against you. To upset completely the Roman realm under your command, I died while living, and while dead, lived. If I should reach the mainland across the sea and catch sight of the Lombards and all the Latins and Germans and our own Franks, warriors memorable in battle, I will fill your cities and countryside full of slaughter, full of blood, until I plant my spear in Byzantium itself.
My goodness. Holy crap.
In 1105, Bohemond landed in Apulia in a similar manner to how Napoleon landed in France after his exile in Elba. In the eyes of the West, Bohemond was a superhero. Tales of his exploits had been circulating for half a decade, including a famous manuscript written by an anonymous Norman knight, which we know as the author of the Gesta Francorum. This manuscript had found itself in every court in France, and everywhere Bohemond went, men and women flocked to see this legendary conqueror of Antioch, who vanquished Kerbogha and numerous other armies. 50,000 men from every corner of Italy, France and Germany died for his freedom, and now he was parading around Italy and preparing for another invasion. He personally met with Pope Paschal II, and while the Bishop of Rome was reluctant to make the third call to crusade, this time against another Christian nation, he was also desperate to wipe the stain of the Crusade of 1101. Following in Urban's footsteps would be difficult for any pope, and now Paschal felt responsible for the blunder in Anatolia. And so he wrote a papal letter and put a papal legate under Bohemond's command.
Okay, so Bohemond has just gone full on, I want to kill the Romans, and this whole thing with the faking of the death and just... My goodness, and also his great PR. Western Europe basically loves this man for his legendary status. So, this seems like... I could see why this video is called the First Crusade against the Romans. Like, Alexio seems like things are going really bad against him, you know?
The call to crusade was now in full effect, and while the end goal was Jerusalem, Bohemond was allowed to take it into the heart of the Eastern Roman Empire and vanquish Alexios. In March 1106, he travelled to France and met with King Philippe I. After a lengthy negotiation, Bohemond secured a marriage for himself with none other than the king's firstborn daughter Constance, who he married in Chartres. He even arranged a marriage between Tancred and another French princess, Cécile. The Prince of Antioch now had the funds, connections, manpower, papal decree, and motivation to complete his task, but he didn't rush it. He carefully planned his invasion for over a year in Italy while training his men, building his fleet, and spending time with his already pregnant wife.
He is going for it, holy crap. I wonder what Alexios is thinking during this entire time while this is all happening. Like, he is really mobilizing everything to try to kill Rome right now.
On the other side of the Adriatic, Alexios was also not idle. When he first met the Normans, the emperor was a young, hot-headed man who learned much from their encounters. Now he took every precaution to prevent the destruction of what he had been building for decades. In 1104, he ushered in a new era of Byzantine diplomacy by establishing a marriage alliance with Hungary, as his son and heir John married the Hungarian princess Piroska, who was renamed Irene after her conversion to the Orthodox faith. Alexios called upon his Venetian allies, who fulfilled their oath by patrolling the seas and slowing the Norman progress. For a while now, he had been training 300 sons from the most powerful noble houses, preparing them to lead. Each of them was given a contingent and ordered to patrol and fortify the Balkans so that they became accustomed to its difficult terrain. Then the emperor left the comforts of the capital and made his way to Thessaloniki, reminiscing the actions of Basil II and surviving yet another assassination attempt. There he established a base camp and ordered every governor in the Balkans to stockpile supplies and fortify their defences, giving them the necessary funds to do so. He also pulled his best generals who were engaged in Armenian Cilicia, focusing the entire empire on this impending invasion. The best of the
My goodness, like, everyone is mobilizing. This seems like it's gonna be like a great thing, like... Man, I'm glad to see Alexios. I'm like rooting for Alexios though, like, you know, over Bohemond. But yeah, I guess it comes down to who's the more cunning and just the better one. I guess Alexios has the kind of advantage in terms of every time they encountered each other in a military sense, Alexios always got the upper hand. So I guess we'll see, but the Romans are just like, it seems like such a great war is about to start.
The Latin world was about to clash with the best of the Eastern Roman world, and both sides were ready. On October 9th, 1107, Bohemond finally launched his expedition, slipped through the Byzantine and Venetian navy, and landed at Valona with 15,000 troops. By the 13th, he was already laying siege to Dyrrhachium. Alongside the numerous ferocious warriors, he also had a member of the Diogenes family, a relative of Romanos IV who was defeated at Manzikert in 1071, a puppet he meant to install on the throne. In almost every way, this was a repeat of his father's invasion, but this time the Byzantines were ready for him. Bohemond's scouts reported that the defences were impenetrable, and that every valley and mountain pass was blockaded by small bands of soldiers. So the Normans pulled back to the safety of Valona and reassessed the situation. Although Bohemond was a master tactician, Alexios left him with no available moves on the board, and in frustration, he besieged Dyrrhachium again in the spring of 1108. Rams were built and...
Okay, so this ain't a good start already. Bohemond's kind of been outplayed already off the bat. You have to give it, Alexios, these guys are both cunning. I really do feel like they kind of mirror each other, Bohemond and Alexios in many ways. But Alexios always seems to be the more clever of the two, and usually comes out on top, so I guess Alexios is just the better, in my opinion. And so far, in terms of statistics, yes, but,
rolled towards the gates before being set on fire. Tunnels were dug, but the defenders dug tunnels of their own, and once they connected with those of the enemy, fires were lit to smoke them out. Finally, Bohemond built a massive siege tower, similar to the one in Antioch. but it too was set ablaze, probably by the use of Greek fire.
Yeah, I don't think was Bohemond there? I don't think so. When they found out the ingredient to stopping Greek fire was vinegar, so I don't think he was there at that point. So I'm not sure if he's aware of it or not. But either way, the Greek fire hack is coming into great play by the Romans.
He then ordered his men to try and break the encirclement by attacking the Byzantine positions in the mountains. Both sides took heavy casualties, but there was no breakthrough. As time went on, resources became more scarce. Bohemond had brought over 15,000 well-trained, well-armed, inspired men, but thanks to the Venetian blockade, they were now starving and wasting away. Rumors began to spread as his followers questioned his greatness and the value of this entire expedition.
Oh boy, yeah, he's losing the legendary status that he built up, right? As everyone's starting to see, oh wait, this guy's maybe not as great as we thought. Oh, that's bad. The Romans, man, Alexios completely outplayed him. He really put checkmate on him. with his great use of diplomacy with the Venetians, helping secure naval supremacy, and basically making the Balkans almost like a choke point. I'm telling you, Alexios has just defeated him already. Like,
if they couldn't even take Dyrrhachium, how could they hope to take Constantinople? Others questioned the entire journey altogether, wishing they had sailed to the Holy Lands. And then a letter arrived. Alexios knew that he had Bohemond in the corner again. The fact that the emperor wrote a letter promising lands, titles, and riches to all those who defected to his side was to be expected at this point. However, he did something else, which was brilliant. He wrote the letter as if it was a reply. This clever act of deception made it seem as if the Norman leadership had already asked the emperor for these gifts in return for them changing their allegiance, and as a result, rumors and paranoia spread throughout the camp.
My goodness. Dude, Alexios, he really said checkmate, punk. Yes, I love this. Alexios, man. The man has been against the odds since the beginning, and he just keeps pulling off the W's. He made Bohemond look like a complete punk right now. And again, Bohemond's probably, I think, of the first Crusaders, the most tactically, the most intelligent, at least the most cunning of the original First Crusader group. Maybe Baldwin might have him beat a little, because Baldwin managed to pull off a lot. But, point is, I think Bohemond's definitely one of the more cunning of the OG Crusaders, and, you know, one of the most tested. Like, his exploits were the best. He was, I think, probably the best of the generals. And now, like, the fact that Alexios has made him look like a complete amateur is just telling of how great Alexios is. Not only as a diplomatic, like, ruler, but as a military man himself. Like, Alexios is the perfect package as an emperor. And again, making Bohemond look like a complete, like, chump is beyond impressive. Like, he's running circles around this dude right now on all fronts. It's kind of like a battle of wits, with Bohemond kind of getting the upper hand in terms of, like, the whole dead man's ploy, and Alexios now coming back. Like, they're also kind of in a battle of wits, which Alexios has proven to be the superior of the two.
Alongside the diseases which were becoming rampant, Bohemond didn't fall for it, but many did, and after months under immense pressure, the most legendary figure in all of Christendom walked over to the imperial tent near Devol unarmed. If it were any other Byzantine emperor, Bohemond would have been imprisoned or even killed on sight, but Alexios chose to show mercy and treated him with humility. Together they discussed terms and signed the Treaty of Devol, the ultimate triumph, which Anna recorded in great detail since her husband was present during the negotiations. Later, she even took it out from the imperial archives while writing her Alexiad. The lenient terms allowed Bohemond to keep Antioch and be its governor as a vassal to Alexios, He was even given the titles of Sebastocrator and Dux, which came with a nice salary of 200 talents. He was even given the right to pass the county of Edessa to his newborn son and heir, to which Bohemond replied, "I will observe all the conditions to which I have agreed and spoken by my mouth, and I will keep them inviolate for all time, and the things that are for the good of your empire I care for now, and will forever care for, and I will never harbour even the slightest thought of hatred or treachery towards you."
Notice the complete shift of tone. Like his first freaking letter, and he was like talking all this smack. He was like, "I'm gonna destroy you. I'm gonna," and now he got completely wrecked. Like Alexios defeated him without suffering any major manpower loss. Like Alexios is a genius, and he made like Bohemond look like a complete idiot out there, and now Bohemond completely humiliated. Dude, Alexios. This is why I love Rome. Rome still pulling off the wins. They have enemies on the east and the west. They're still out here pulling off victories like this. I gotta read the Alexiad. Like, I actually that's on the top of my list for books to read now, because I need to read like this account, you know. I'm definitely gonna be starting that. I'm thinking maybe tomorrow in my own time, because like I really want to read more about this stuff.
Rather than making Bohemond a martyr, whom the West would want to avenge, Alexios took their great hero and humiliated him.
Humbled him, right? Like, Bohemond's PR and reputation severely crippled now. Before, he was the main man of the Crusades. Now he's just like been humbled, and his legendary status has been like devalued. Alexios made a complete. He made a statement with this, and again, just a great emperor, man.
It was now winter, and the weather couldn't allow for the safe return of his armies, so they were now fed and clothed by the imperial treasury. Some stayed and served Alexios, others went back home without glory, religious artifacts, or even the tale of an epic battle. As for Bohemond, one of the most impactful and interesting figures of the medieval era, well, he went back to Apulia, never to return to Antioch as a final slight against Alexios. He died a few years later in 1111, making him one of the two major First Crusade leaders not to die in battle. Robert of Normandy died in prison after being defeated by his brother. Raymond, Godfrey, Hugh, Robert of Flanders, Baldwin, and even Stefan all died in battle, and the great Bohemond, who was the main reason they even made it to Jerusalem, died as a humiliated and failed old man.
At Granger,
Man, Alexios really like made an example out of him. Again, a little bit sad, because definitely Bohemond's accomplishments in the First Crusade should never be overlooked. I think he was amazing, but again, he picked with the wrong. He made an enemy out of the wrong person with Alexios. I can't get over like that first letter he made where he was like, "I've defeated you, Alexios," and then he just gets wrecked like that. Well, guys, that's the end of that. And tomorrow we're gonna look at the first jihad. So I'll see you then, everyone.